And I'll start today with lighting of our unity candle. So we light this candle. It represents that light of spirit that's in each and every one of us. That flame of the divine that shines forth into the world, bringing the light of God in all we do, all we say, and all we are. It's in each and every one of us, and so we are grateful for that light. Join me now as we move into an opening prayer. I invite us each to just take a few deep breaths. Spirit, as we pause and turn to you this morning, we turn within and find that you are always there waiting for us. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you, God, for this day, for this time and this technology that allows us to be together as a spiritual community and to support one another as we learn your wisdom and your truths. I bless this service. I know that it unfolds perfectly because you are in control of all of it. And so we say thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for this day, for this time, and for all that will unfold before us. We release it and let it go, and we seal it by saying together, and so it is. So welcome. I'm glad you're with us today. Welcome to the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. We are an inclusive community, and I am Reverend Rick McCollum. I am your spiritual director. I want to share a slide with you as we begin today. So we want you to know that as a spiritual community, we welcome all paths to God. There are many ways for people to experience a relationship with the God of their understanding. So wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we're glad you're with us today. And we know that you will be blessed by being a part of what God is creating here as this whole service unfolds. Thank you for being with us. And now we move to our opening song. This is a song by Kylie, and many of you will know it. We welcome you, Spirit.
We welcome you, Spirit, as we gather here to love one another in ways you make clear. We lift up our hearts in joy and open our minds. We welcome you, Spirit, in this holy time. We welcome you, Spirit, as we gather here to love one another in ways you make clear. We lift up our hearts in joy and open our minds. We welcome you, Spirit, in this holy time. We welcome you, Spirit, in this holy time.
And now it's time for our spiritual reading, and our practitioner of the day, Vicki Jeter, will offer our reading for us.
Good morning, everybody. The reading today comes from the Science of Mind, from the first 4 sections of the book that we traditionally work out of in January. Very, very last page of those 4 sections, 60. The mental attitude of the practitioner, which is, of course, all of us, is one of denial toward every false condition that opposes the principle of all life as one of absolute perfection. God's world is perfect, and this is the principle we have to demonstrate. Spiritual things must be spiritually discerned, and when we are ready and willing spiritually to discern, we shall find a reality response from the invisible into the visible. Let us do our work conscientiously and continuously, thoroughly, and leave the results to the law, which is perfect in spirit. A new light is coming to the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin now. The invisible passes into visibility through our faith in it. True thought deals directly with first cause. In first cause, there is no separation. And this science is the reality of spirit and truth and the invisible essence that ultimately shifts and the intelligence from which everything comes. The power back of creation, the thing itself. Amen.
Thank you, Vicki. So my opening question for you today, how are you feeling about our country and about your world today? Are you excited? Are you anxious? Are you fearful? Or are you positive? My intention for this talk today is to give you some spiritual tools that can help you live in a life of peace and positive expectancy. The spiritual principle that I'm teaching today is oneness. This is our third talk in the series on Science of Mind Basics, and it's from chapter 3 of our textbook. The talk is Understanding What It Does. So I hope you'll remember that from week 1, it here refers to God, Spirit, the infinite intelligence, divine. And what it does is that it loves us unconditionally. It offers us unlimited possibilities for our lives. It provides us with infinite wisdom, and it expresses itself through us. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, well, then why don't I see or feel all these things? Well, I want you to know we are the ones who limit what our minds will accept. In the textbook on page 40, it says, for while it's true that we are immersed in an infinite intelligence, a mind that knows all things, it's also true that this intelligence can acquaint us with ideas only as we are able and willing to receive them. Are you willing to receive the good of spirit? There is this banquet of life that has been laid before us, and we can take as much of it as we are willing to take. Spirit does not withhold anything from our lives. Are you ready to mentally see the good that Spirit is laying before you? Page 45 of the textbook, Ernest says, mental work is definite. Each state of thought taps into the same principle, uses the same law, is inspired by the same spirit, but each draws forth a different result. Here is multiplicity proceeding from unity. Now let me break this down just a little bit so I make sure that you can understand what's being said. Because sometimes I read this and it sounds really good, but what's really being said here? Well, the mental work is what we do, each one of us, It's the thinking that we're doing in our minds all the time. Are you good at turning your mind off, stopping the thinking? It takes a lot of practice to do that, so we're always thinking. Some of us are using our thoughts here to be directed into positive, life-affirming manner and thoughts. The same principle or law works for each one of us. Are we willing to use that law consciously to create our lives? You see, some people create their life consciously and direct the law where they want their life to go. Others give guidance to the law, but they do it unconsciously. There is only one spirit, one law, but each of us sees a different result. And it's because of how much we allow our minds to be open to the good of God that is there for us. Page 47 says, trained thought is more powerful than untrained. The more completely one believes that their thought has power, the more power it will have. This means that the more we direct our thoughts toward what we prefer in life, the faster we'll see things happen. Ernest Holmes said, the more when we pray, the more feeling we put into our prayer, the quicker we see our manifestation. So are we training our minds to stay focused on the thoughts of what we prefer to see and have in our lives? Where is your faith? What are you putting your faith in? Is your faith in what you're seeing around you? Remember, in the Bible, it says, judge not by appearances. But isn't that what many of us often do? We start judging what's going on by the appearances around us, rather than putting our faith in what we prefer to see. Can we see something that maybe is upsetting, but find a blessing in it? Can we look for the good? I know many people here have expressed being upset with the current situation in our nation's capital. And people have different views on this situation. For me, it's important here to use science of mind teachings to guide me in what I'm thinking. So first, I want you to know that whatever feelings you're having about the events going on in our country, and even those of you in other countries, you're allowed to feel your feelings about the United States too. It's important for each and every one of us in this process of working through the events that we hear about and experience each day, that we feel our feelings. If we're ones that will say, well, that upsets me, but that's not very spiritual, so I'm just going to say it's all okay. God is good, God is everywhere, it's all God, it's fine. Well, that's using spiritual bypass to avoid our real feelings. I have learned, and many of you know as well, that when we stuff these feelings and we don't bring them out into the light of day and acknowledge our feelings, they will emerge later in our life. And often when they emerge, it's very inappropriate. So I encourage you, rant, rave to yourself, to your spouse, to a practitioner, to me, to anyone who will listen respectfully. You need to get your feelings out. You need to own your feelings so that then, once you have expressed it and gotten them out, you'll be ready to move on to a different vibration, to maybe look at how spiritually you could consider the situation to move yourself forward. I'll share with you that for me, it's been helpful for me to own my feelings by asking myself questions like, what part of me wants to storm the Capitol and make changes to things? Is there a part of me that wants my way, regardless of what others think? I just want my way? What part of me will rage and hurt others because I don't feel like people are listening to me. Is there a part of me that's scared when life looks out of control? When I consider these things, it helps me to see that I'm no different than others. There is, even those things we don't like about other people, there's a part of us that has that same thought. Now, it may not be a big part, it may not be controlling our life, but it's a part of us because we're all one. And having the human experience here, we can get off center. I've had people ask me, does the science of mind philosophy believe in activism and protest, or just in peace? I know that if there's never any activism or protest, then nothing will ever change. Science of mind teaches us to live according to spiritual principle. And one of those spiritual principles is that everyone is a child of God, a creation of the same Spirit. We're all made out of the same stuff. Therefore, it's a oneness throughout the human race. It's okay to be upset if something does not support spiritual principle. An example that I would offer you of this is the civil rights movement. You see, it's not okay for people to say that people of color are subordinate to white people. Everyone is created from the same spirit and power, and that is a universal fact. No one person is better than any other person. We are all the same. There's a oneness here. Think of the example of Rosa Parks. She peacefully kept her seat on the bus. She did not fight those who wanted to force their beliefs on her and wanted to treat her as a second-class citizen. This was the beginning of the civil rights movement for people of color. If her protest had not happened, we wouldn't have the change now. She was embracing the principle of oneness. She knew deep down that she was not a second-class citizen, that she was a child of God, even when society tried to tell her that she was second class, that she should be treated different. Anytime we see someone being treated with disrespect, we can take a stand. And when we do that, we stand in spiritual principle, not to hurt others or to put them down, but to stand for what is right. And what's right is equal rights for all people, because there is a oneness throughout the human race. We are all one, no matter what the color of our skin, no matter what language we speak, no matter what religion we have, we are all one human race. From my personal life, I can share with you that I certainly have felt like a second-class citizen and been told that because I was a gay man. I was fired from a job because my boss learned that I was gay. I spent years needing to hide my primary relationship with a man because I felt I had to fit into society. I took a female friend to many work functions for years because that's what was expected of me at the time. I had no voice if I wanted to be employed in the healthcare field. I was passed over for a promotion to day shift at one hospital where I worked at because the nursing supervisor said it's not proper for a man to be a nurse. Now, this nursing supervisor was happy to call me whenever she needed some muscle to help with a patient. But she told me when I learned that she was the one that denied the promotion for me, she said, "Rick, I don't think the public needs to see you." Can you imagine how that makes someone feel? It's a second-class citizen feeling. I'm less than. So it takes owning who I am in order to move forward and not be that victim. Often the person who's being denied an equal right is not really able to speak for themselves, and others are not able to hear even if they do speak for themselves. That's why we as individuals on a spiritual path need to use our voice to support what is true in spiritual principle. Over time, when people don't feel like they've been heard, or they don't feel like anyone's listening or caring about their thoughts, they may be driven to take action which can be hurtful or violent. They're operating on a human level when they do this. And they fail to recognize that what their actions are really saying is the very thing they're complaining about. No one will listen to me. So in order to get people to listen, I've got to create a problem here. I've got to create violence. So I want to be clear. I am not condoning violent protest or behavior that hurts another individual or property. As human beings, having a spiritual experience, we do need to feel our feelings. And when we're ready, once we have owned those feelings and gotten them out, seen them in the light of day, acknowledged them, then we can move to a place where we embrace spiritual principles. Now, this can require forgiveness. Forgiveness of ourselves and forgiveness of others in order to move forward. Have you driven past an accident? The human part of us wants to look at it, wants to see what's going on, and it may be really hard to look away, even if it's an active accident scene. But notice that some people will want to stop and help. Some will call 911. Others will move on and say a prayer for the people involved. And there will be some people who want to just dart around the accident and get past that slowdown so that they can get on to where they're going. Each of us responds differently. But it's that spirit within us that empowers us to take whatever action we're going to take. This is why we say it's one spirit that expresses in many forms. At LCSL, we have a tagline that says many forms expressing one life. This is another way to say it's all God, and each of us is a unique expression of that one divine spirit. Even those people that you don't care for, the ones that get under your skin, they too are an expression of the divine. Now, I will own, it may not be an expression I want to be, but they are coming from that divine within them. Remember in the beginning when I said some people create their lives consciously and others unconsciously? Most people who are not on a spiritual path let their emotions and their feelings run their lives. And so living from emotion and feeling, they're not really consciously creating what they want. The way each person lives or expresses life depends on the container that they put spirit, that unconditional love and impersonal law into. And this container that I'm talking about is our mind, our consciousness. How are we expressing our minds? On page 47 of the textbook, Dr. Holmes uses this example of an iron foundry, melting down the pig iron and then pouring it into different molds to take various forms. Well, since I bet most of us have not visited an iron foundry, at least not recently, let me offer you this example. Think of it as when you bake a cake. You mix together all the ingredients for whatever kind of cake you want to bake. Then you pour the batter into a container. Will your cake be a bundt cake? A layer cake? Is it a sheet cake? Will it be round or square? Or maybe little cupcakes? It all depends on the container you pour the batter into. Spirit offers us the abundance of the universe to access and use in our lives to make the cake of our life from. We get to decide how much of the universal abundance we will allow into our life. Will you put everything into the cake that you can and have a great potpourri? Or will it be something a little less exciting? What mold will your mind or consciousness provide for the cake of your life? Maybe your cake will be missing some important ingredients. I know that for some people, they say they can't eat regular flour. And maybe they don't feel worthy to purchase gluten-free flour. So their cake has no flour in it. That would mean that it would probably be flat and taste funny. You see, it's up to us what we will put into our lives. It's a spiritual tool to move our thinking from a negative view to a positive view. And to do this, it takes faith. Our faith can neutralize any negative mental attitude. At the end of this chapter, Dr. Holmes asks the question, how much of this infinite good is ours? And he answers his own question with, in all capitals, all of it. Then he asks, how much of it may we have to use? And again, in all capitals, he says, as much of it as we can embody. This is the truth for us. God has laid forth the banquet table of life for us. And how much of it will we allow to come into our lives? How much can we embody for ourselves? So I hope that you will remember to use the spiritual tools of positive thinking, conscious action, and faith. When you put these tools of consciousness together with spiritual principle, knowing the oneness of all humanity, it will allow you to make the cake of unity. Respect for all life, and it will help you to find peace and joy in the spirit that is always waiting for you to turn to it. My final point that I want to make this morning is that as we move past our negative thoughts and thinking, we need to choose what we want in its place. You see, the universe doesn't like a vacuum, and it will fill that empty space. So we must consciously decide what we're going to put into that space. If we don't want the negative thought or thinking, then what positive thought do we want to put in there? That's how we fill the space, the void that was made from changing our thinking. If we don't do this, the same thoughts are going to find their way back in pretty quickly. So we fill the void by using affirmations, positive self-talk, and constructive action. Constructive action. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is an organization that was born like this. Instead of staying in her grief, one mother decided to take action, to make a stand and make the world a different place. And boy, has her action changed the world. David Smith is a 40-year-old veteran. He was in Washington, D.C., handing out hand warmers to the homeless people when he witnessed the mob attacking the Capitol building. He was horrified watching this event, and he was even more upset because several veterans were taking part in it. Smith had started an organization this past summer called Continue to Serve. It's a group of veterans who stand up for justice and equality for all people. They have attended Black Lives Matter rallies, and they have supported all kinds of people for equality. As a veteran, he said, "We've taken an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, and that oath lasts a lifetime." He said it's not an oath to any one person, but to the Constitution of our country. Last Sunday, while we were here in our service, Smith had organized a group of veterans and volunteers to clean up Washington, D.C. around the Capitol. There were about 200 people that came to the event. They were divided into 5 different teams, each led by a veteran, and they took different streets to move through the area and clean the streets with their trash bags that got fuller and fuller. They removed signs that the individuals that had stormed the Capitol had left behind. They picked up all kinds of trash that was left there by the rioters. Many of them took glue remover with them so that they could remove stickers that were defacing signs, permanent signage in the area from the protesters. This is a way not to stay in negative thoughts and feelings, but to move to a positive action that helps to heal the world. Hearing about the actions of this group of volunteers and veterans, my heart was encouraged, and I can stand taller knowing that I'm not alone in my quest to bring peace and healing to our country. We are one human race. Let us embrace each other as the divine beings that we are. Let us reflect that we are all children of God, no matter who we are, no matter what differences we may see on the outside. And let us share the love of Spirit as we live from spiritual principle, positive thoughts, conscious action, and having faith. Those are keys for all of us to live our lives as spiritual beings. Let us move now into our time of reflection. I invite you to take a few deep breaths, to take a couple moments in the silence here, to allow the message of this morning to come into your mind, into your heart. Feel the feelings that arise within you, and know whatever they are, that is truth. Own it for yourself. Spirit, I am grateful for your faithfulness to each and every one of us. I am grateful for understanding the human race, and that from this diversity of expression, we can return back to you, return back to one Spirit, one power. Thank you. Thank you, divine life in all of us. I am grateful for your message this morning. And I'm grateful for open ears to hear and open hearts to embrace the spiritual truth that we are one human race, that we can stand up and support each other in spiritual principle, that there is a common unity. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for this time. Thank you for this message. Help us to take it in and allow it to percolate so that we can know your truth within us. And so it is. Namaste.
Miss Vicki Jeter for our prosperity.
What's that? They say that which you teach and all this technology stuff is what you need to learn. gotta remember to unmute. So just such a joy to share this time with you all this morning. And as Reverend Cindy Shellham taught us not too many weeks ago, overflowing well of gratitude. This is our Thanksgiving paid forward. We are grateful, grateful, grateful for each and every one of you for bringing your talents, times, and treasures. And as is our way, if you look in the chat, you will find the address that you can mail a check to. You can use your Givelify, and you can put some visual focus on our divine Miss Pat holding up the gifting basket, and just know that it's being received. And also there's a link to PayPal there as well. And so, as ever, if you have any questions about that, if you have any troubles, just reach out to one of us. We're more than happy to help you. And now we have our affirmation for the week is also there. I'll say this once and then we can know we're saying it together. In this new year, within a universe of infinite potential, I accept my ever-expanding good. Yes. In this new year, within a universe of infinite potential, I accept my ever-expanding good. Yes. And that brings into our time of sharing announcements. Let me see here. I'm looking to see if I also have a paper copy. So the first thing is that, as we did today, you may notice that we're working our energetic impeccability just that much more to start on time at 10:30 each Sunday. And still come on whenever you come. As you know, we're going to embrace you whatever time it is, but we like to have you know that we're going to start on time and end on time. And our big news, next week, Dr. Ken Gordon will be our speaker. And this is like coming into the big time, you guys. I don't know if you've ever heard him, but he was the spiritual leader for the whole world for Centers for Spiritual Living from 2014 to 2020. Those of us who have had the privilege of meeting him absolutely know that he is down to earth, warm, funny, and he is spiritually inspiring. You won't want to miss him. So next week, same bat time, same bat channel, 10:30, be here. And then same day, this is like a double header, you guys, because the Reverend Rick McCollum will be doing his first workshop for us to launch our new year. And it's going to be at noon. So when service ends, you'll have a nice 30-minute break. If you'll come back noon to 1:15, it's going to be, you know, just an intensive but very directed, and he's going to give you something that you'll be able to take with you to use for the rest of the year. And it's love offering. So come on, no matter who you are or where you're at, you're welcome to come. And that'll be after service next Sunday. And Rick, I don't know, do you want to say anything about that?
I'll just say that we're going to give you like a 30-minute break at the end of service. So when we end at 11:30, we'll start this workshop at noon so that you have time to grab a bite to eat and be ready to come back and focused. We'll take about an hour to hour and 15 minutes for the workshop, and it really helps you discover what your word is moving into 2021. It's helpful to have a word that you carry with you throughout the entire year. And so I'll be working with you to discover what that word is. It'll be a fun process for us. So I hope that you'll join us.
Thank you, Reverend Rick. And as I have it, that is the end of our, oh, Pat would like to say something.
Just want to say, as this workshop is a love offering basis, you can send your love offering via whatever form you normally send your tithe, and just mark on the memo line of the check or in the app that you use that it's for the workshop, and we will get it applied to the right place. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for remembering that. I recognize that I didn't include that. So now we're turning it back over to Reverend Rick for closing prayer.
All right. Thank you all again for being here with us today. And as we close this service, we pause and say thank you. It's always good to have gratitude. Spirit, thank you that you are the power that enlivens each and every one of us. And we are grateful for this time together. We're grateful for the knowledge of your wisdom within us. Thank you for the principles that we have to live by. And thank you that we understand the unity and the oneness of our entire human race, that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. Help us to love ourselves and to love all those around us. So we're grateful. I bless each one of us as we move into this week, and the significance of this week and all the activities in Washington and throughout each state, that there is a peacefulness across the land. I claim for us that peace, that divine wisdom, that protection for each person, for each heart, for each life. And I know that as we collectively support the effort and the peace in this land to restore justice, to bring about the life that enhances and encourages each of us, we do it knowing that Spirit is our guide, that God is our light, and that we are each unique expressions of that one power, one presence. I release my word into the universe that always says yes, yes. And we seal it by saying together, and so it is. And now our closing song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God our Creator, we
And now, Vernon, you can unmute us all.